Bueno. Ya estamos acá de nuevo en vivo, hoy recibiendo un invitado especial. Estamos acá abajo tenemos a Peter McCormack, acá a mi lado está como siempre Aníbal Santaella, acompañándome el co-hosting de Hablemos de Bitcoin, un espacio creado para hacer encuentros digitales sobre Bitcoin en Satoshi en Venezuela. Hoy estamos recibiendo a Peter McCormack. Antes de partir, bueno, vamos a dejarles un mensaje que nos tienen los sponsors de este show para que sepan con quién contamos.
Satoshi en Venezuela es patrocinado por Leden, una suite de servicios que te ayudan a ahorrar y ganar más Bitcoin y dólares digitales. Nuestros productos te permiten ganar intereses, pedir créditos en dólares y obtener créditos para comprar más Bitcoin. Nuestras cuentas de ahorro en Bitcoin y dólares USDC, en colaboración con Genesis, te ofrecen las mejores tasas de interés en el mercado, trabajando con la institución más establecida y con mayor transparencia en la industria. Puedes comenzar a ganar el 4,1% anual en tu Bitcoin y el 8,8% anual en tu USDC desde ya. Nuestro servicio B2X, exclusivamente en LEND, te permite utilizar el Bitcoin que ya tienes para obtener un crédito en dólares y comprar el mismo monto de Bitcoin, utilizando un crédito respaldado por Bitcoin para duplicar el monto de Bitcoin que ya posees. Y si necesitas dólares, pero no quieres vender tus Bitcoin, puedes seguir siendo dueño de tus Bitcoin y obtener un crédito en dólares en 24 horas. ¿Quieres ponerle alas a tus satoshis? Aprende más en leden.io.
Hola, mi nombre es Isabel Quintero y hoy les voy a contar cómo envío dinero a mi familia usando Paxful. Como estoy en Colombia, voy a la página de Paxful y busco comprar Bitcoin con pesos colombianos. Generalmente uso transferencia bancaria, pero también puedo utilizar otras formas de pago como Next, PayPal y hasta tarjetas de regalo. Si tengo prisa en enviar el dinero, busco una oferta de compra de Bitcoin en Venezuela. De lo contrario, creo una oferta de venta de Bitcoin y espero por un comprador que esté interesado. Pido entonces al comprador que haga el pago en mi cuenta bancaria en Venezuela. Todo eso pasa en pocos minutos, con seguridad y rapidez. Ni hablar del costo, que es mucho más barato que otras formas de envío. En algunas situaciones hasta tengo ganancias. Así que ya, logro transferir dinero para quien, dónde y cuando quiera usando Paxful. Y sí, tú también puedes hacer lo mismo. ¡Feliz remesa!
Bueno, y también aprovechar para pedirles que se suscriban a nuestro canal de YouTube, acá mismo donde estamos viendo este live con Peter. Así que podemos partir, igual como siempre que tenemos invitados que hablan en inglés, vamos a estar haciéndole preguntas y traduciendo las ideas clave de lo que digan. Así que bienvenidos a los más de 10 personas que están ya conectados con nosotros. Welcome, Peter. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And also, Aníbal, it's a great pleasure to be with you here again. And well, let's start asking you about your thoughts after being here in Venezuela. It's been a long time if we think this in the pandemic context, but if it is not like a year yet, it was in 2020. So what are your thoughts after visiting Venezuela and seeing the reality about the crypto or Bitcoin nation? What about that? And thanks for being here, Peter.
Hey, man. Good to see you again. Anytime you want, I'm happy to come on and talk to you. And thank you for your hospitality when I was there in Venezuela. I had a great time. It was great to hang out with you. I loved it there. But it is strange, right? Like, it was less than 6 months ago I was there. And now, but it feels like years. I can't believe it was this recently, because since I was there, the world has gone absolutely mad. We have had a pandemic. We've got everything that's going on with global unrest, with Black Lives Matters, a lot of weird stuff going on in Hong Kong and China. It's just, the world has changed so much in just such a short space of time. So it is a bit weird. But yes, good to see you again, man. Good to talk to you. I had a great time. I absolutely fell in love with Venezuela. I really did. Not exactly what I expected. I thought I'd be more scared, and I thought it would be a little bit more lawless, but it wasn't. I felt safer than I expected. I thought the people were wonderful. I tell you what it was. I could I could see the country I wanted to come back to in between all the crap, right? Outside of Maduro and his gangsters that are running the country. Just from the time I spent with the people, I could imagine if I came back and it was a free country, perhaps a democratic country, it would be an even better experience. But I had a great time. Everything from my time in both East and West Caracas with you to heading out into the slums, into the barrios, to stumbling across a Maduro rally. It was like I got through a lot of stuff in 2 days. But I loved it, man. I had such a good time. So thank you.
Okay, Peter, thanks for your word. I'm going to translate something for the public, for the people. Okay, Peter nos dice que bueno, que es increíble que cómo han pasado 6 meses y todo ha cambiado, ¿no? Estamos en una época de pandemia, muchas cosas han cambiado y han pasado y están pasando, como en China, Hong Kong. Dice que es sorprendente. Que la pasó muy bien allá, le dijo a Javier que muchas gracias por la atención, la pasó muy bien, 2 días, dice que en 2 días fue una gran experiencia, que él realmente imaginaba, tenía una percepción de que podría ser más peligroso, se sentiría asustado, pero en realidad que no fue así, ¿no? Que él en cierta forma se sintió bien con la gente que estuvo, la pasó bien, que pensó que podría ser más bullicioso, más peligroso con el tema del régimen y todo el autoritarismo, pero que no, que por el contrario, dice que espera volver, que espera volver quizás en una Venezuela libre o en un futuro, ¿no? Y volver, dice que se quedó con ese sabor de boca, es uno de los sitios que quisiera volver a ir y que la gente, bueno, que la experiencia con la gente fue muy particular, o sea, en el sentido positivo. Inclusive estuvo en unos barrios, la pasó bien en el este y el oeste de Caracas y en el barrio que visitó. Bueno, nada.
Peter also visited some of the slums, some of the barrios, as he said, in Venezuela. I want to share a little film of his documental that is on Defiance. It will be linked here in the video. So
I had arranged to meet a local to explain to me what life is like for her. What is life like for you living up here in El Junquito? How do you survive? Do you work? Do you get money from the government? How do you survive and pay for your children?
Bueno, ahorita estoy desempleada. He estado sobreviviendo con los bonos, ahorita con el PET, pero es como que no lo tuviera porque igualito lo tengo ahí, no he podido hacer nada. He hecho 1001 formas hasta ahorita que me dieron otra opción de que hay hasta una casa de cambio donde puedo subastar los PET para poder gastarlo, pero hasta ahorita no he podido hacer nada.
Okay, so are you pro Maduro or pro Guaido? Like politically, who do you support?
Ahorita no apoyo a nadie, ahorita nada más me apoyo yo sola porque ya uno no sabe si está del lado de Guaidó o de Maduro. Pero a decir verdad, prefiero estar del lado de Guaidó porque ya Maduro nos tiene rebasado. Que se ponga cualquiera ahí menos Maduro.
How have you seen Venezuela change over the last 10 years and how has that been for you?
Bueno, personalmente he tenido una experiencia sumamente, un cambio radical y ha cambiado tantas etapas como lo que es con respecto a la comida, con respecto a su ropa, con respecto a todo, cada año se me hace sumamente más difícil porque ya no hay empleo, o sea, es demasiado y ahorita pueden haber miles de empleos, pero con un sueldo mínimo nada más no vives, simplemente en pasajes se te va el sueldo mínimo y ahorita cada vez la crisis va peor porque pueden haber muchas cosas, pero ya la inflación nos comió prácticamente al venezolano.
Yeah.
Esto es parte del documental que hizo Peter cuando vino a Venezuela. Hay otras imágenes en donde se ve visitando una marcha pro-chavista y también visita la oficina de unos buenos amigos nuestros, los Brothers Venezuela, acá en Caracas, donde se ven muchos de los contrastes. Entonces ahora justamente va a preguntarle por esta experiencia como tal. Peter, you said that you have a really great time here in Caracas, and also that you had the time to visit the east and the west side of the city. And I think that you already talked about this, but what are your thoughts on the contrast that you saw between this place where the lady was living in El Junquito and the other places where you spent some time? Even when we recorded your podcast, we were in the office of the Big Brother. So what are your thoughts on the contrasts between citizens in Venezuela? See?
Well, it was like, I mean, you know this, it's like two different countries in some ways. It's still very Venezuelan, the food's the same, but in East Caracas, it's more cosmopolitan. It feels, I guess I felt free in East Caracas. East Caracas, just correct me, because it was a while ago. East Caracas is where you are, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So in East Caracas, I felt like it was free, good restaurants. You had kind of modern posters on the wall advertising jeans, and maybe it was Pepsi or whatever. It just felt like any other city. It was when you were going to the West, I felt like that was when I was entering the Chavez/Maduro propaganda part of the city, where that was very much people were living under the dictatorship, which is very strange because it's one country. But it was just felt like I still felt like it was two different countries. It was like the liberal, progressive, modern part of Caracas, and then the bit controlled by by the dictatorship. So it was very strange to go through that.
Yeah, but that was part of the regime's strategy during the last 20 years. Divide us, it's like that was that they did, no? Divide the Venezuelan people into Chavistas and all the other opposition, or the rest of us, something like that.
Yeah, very unusual. It's very unusual. I've got to say, when I went out to West Caracas, it was a very intriguing and quite fascinating thing to see. To just suddenly start, because you would leave and you suddenly start seeing the kind of stencils of Maduro's names on the bridges or on the walls, and you would see the old kind of Maduro or Chavez posters. And so it was very strange to see that, because I've never been to a place which has so much propaganda on the walls in such a way. So it was fascinating to watch. It was really kind of interesting. And then we stumbled upon that Maduro rally, where it was tens of thousands of people marching in support of Maduro as well. And everybody I spoke to spoke very positively about Maduro. Obviously, I understand what was going on there. And I think it was was it Students' Day when I was there or something? But that was very, very strange to see.
Yeah.
El Día de la Juventud, no sé cómo se dice el Día de la Juventud, pero coincidió con la celebración de esa the Juventud. I don't know how to say that, but it's like the Youth Day, the Youth People Day, something like that. What are your opinion when you saw those people talking about how they can give their life to the Maduro regime if they need it, and when you saw the things that the regime, the Chavismo, have made to the country, how you can understand this? I don't know if you can, because as a Venezuelan, it is difficult to understand someone to think like that, but I don't know if it is so weird if you are from the outside of the country like you. So what are your opinion on this kind of vision of the things?
Yeah, no, I understand the question. It's very confusing. Yeah. It's very confusing because I came into the country with the opinion that Maduro does not have any support. Nobody likes Maduro. And I understand that a lot of people like Chavez because, he's very charismatic. He, made a lot of promises to help the poorest within Venezuela, whereas Maduro doesn't have that. He's just very much a strict authoritarian. So it was very confusing because I didn't expect to meet anybody who supported. I didn't expect to meet the people who would support Maduro. So what was confusing is that I don't believe there is anybody. Whilst I've been told that some of the people, they're only supporting Maduro because they don't want to lose their job, or they need their basket of food they get, or they want their education paid for. I still believe there are some people who just do support. There are Chavistas still there. There are people who do still support the regime. What was confusing was because it's not a free part of the country. People aren't free to openly admit what they think. You don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't. You don't know if those tens of thousands of people would march. Perhaps if it wasn't free, maybe it'd only be 1,000 or 10,000. It felt like 100,000. So it was very confusing. But it obviously speaks volumes for the need for people to live in a free society, to be able to speak openly and freely, so you know what people really stand for and what they really want in their country. But it was very confusing.
Okay, I'm going to translate something now. Él dice principalmente que para él fue muy confuso, ¿no? Porque Javier le preguntó que cómo lo entendía una persona del extranjero, ¿no? Entonces él dice que es muy confuso porque él llegó a Venezuela con la concepción de que Maduro no tenía nada de apoyo. Y resulta que, bueno, que él estuvo en una marcha, y no solo en una marcha, pero él se metió en la parte más decadente, quizás de Caracas, en el oeste, ¿no? Entonces dice que habló con gente que quizás es porque no tiene otra opción y no tiene libertades, pero desde su perspectiva él dice que hay gente que parecía convincente con el apoyo a Maduro, porque él dice que, típico, con Chávez porque era un tipo carismático y bueno, todo lo que se sabía a nivel mundial, X. Pero pues Maduro, bueno, dice pero en general es que es confuso, dice que es muy confuso. Y al principio, antes de esa respuesta, dijo algo de la división de prácticamente es un solo país, pero es muy diferente el este del oeste, ¿no? Él dice que nunca había estado en un país donde el oeste había tanta propaganda, ¿no? Propaganda y más propaganda política, los panfletos, las pantallas, todo, en el caso de políticos, y por el otro lado, en el este se sentía como normal, que bueno, Coca-Cola, dijo propaganda de licores. Entonces, en realidad él dice que es muy confuso, ¿no? Básicamente eso, ¿no? You know, Peter, I am in Scotland. Sometimes for me it's hard to explain for the people the reality in my country, because for example, with the money is, I don't know, it's so difficult to understand what happened to the Bolivar, because it has lost its value during 12 years now. For me, it's too hard to play here for example, how much does it cost a coffee, a bread, a pint of milk, something like that. The people even don't believe me, but it's the reality,
Yeah, there were some things that really stood out for me. So the time I spent in Cucuta at the border in Colombia, what I saw there was just very strange. All the people pouring over the border, just coming to buy things, and the people I met and the stories they told me of what they were going through. But even within Venezuela, we went for lunch, and when we were given the menu, where the prices were, the prices were all stickers, and obviously because the prices change so regularly, they're having to change them. And whilst it was priced in Bolivar, they obviously wanted me to pay in dollar. But there was there was also the shrink. We have this thing called shrinkflation, whereby if things get expensive, you make them smaller. So when I was in the hotel I stayed in, which was a really good hotel, we got a couple of bottles of beer. The bottles of beer were really small.
Yeah, this is different because the normal beer in Venezuela is like it's less than a half a pint. Here, guys, the pint is like this. It's almost 600 milliliters, and it's the normal beer here, a pint. No? In Venezuela, the beer is like it's half a pint. It's too little. Yes.
Yeah, it was very small, and I had the same with bottles of water and other things. Like when I was at the airport and I went into the bathroom, there was no soap for your hand. So lots of little things I would spot. And on the way out, when I was leaving to fly out, I wanted there was a store selling various things in the airport, and it was $5 for a packet of M&Ms.
Okay.
So,
that's the same. Yeah, too expensive because it's where all the economic collapse. The people to maintain their stores open. The way of making some profit. Sometimes they go with the price too high because they need to protect there is a lot of speculation with the prices of the food or of the goods. It's normal. It's expensive, and here is because my family is still there. When I ask him for the price, for example, for a milk or I don't know, cheese, bread, is basically the same here, Peter. In sterling pound, it's the same. For me, I don't know. It's less expensive. For example, for the food, living here. For the household, is not because I have a home there where to live. Now here I'm paying the rent, but there is the hardest part for the regular people in Venezuela,
Yeah.
Voy a traducir ahí un poco para lo que estaban conversando ahora era justamente la estancia de Peter acá y cómo se fue dando cuenta de los problemas del dinero que se van manifestando en la forma en que se van presentando los productos. Y Aníbal también complementaba allí comentando que el que está en Escocia se le hace difícil explicarle a la gente de Escocia los problemas que tiene el dinero, porque obviamente en Escocia no es que tú vas a ver los billetes tirados en el piso porque no valen nada. Entonces Peter comentaba que le llamó la atención varias de las cosas, por lo menos ver las cervezas muy pequeñas, que creo que son las cervezas de 222 mililitros, las populares negritas. También la idea de que no hay jabón en los baños, esto ya es una costumbre, o sea que obviamente uno probablemente como venezolano ya ni siquiera te des cuenta de esos pequeños detalles, como también los nombró Peter, pero que siguen siendo cosas que llaman la atención y que demuestran que el momento económico es difícil, o sea, no es que es algo que se está inventando, sino que es palpable. Aníbal comentaba como el estado de los inmigrantes, que también es interesante dentro del movimiento de migración venezolano. Mucha gente, como en el caso de Aníbal, han dejado propiedades en Venezuela por irse a otros países en donde obviamente las condiciones son mucho mejores y sin embargo deja familia acá, siempre vas a estar conectado con la situación que sucede acá y se vuelve en cierto modo incomunicable, difícil de explicar, bueno, porque la gente no es tan difícil, no es tan fácil explicar cómo uno termina tan horrible como estamos justo ahora. Entonces, si tienes otra pregunta ahí que añadirle, or if you have,
well, Peter, for you, what do you think? It was clear that the situation in Venezuela is a humanitarian crisis.
It was a lot clearer that it was a crisis in Cucuta than it was in Caracas. In Cucuta, it clearly was, because I just spoke to people and the desperate situations they were going through and trying to survive. I met one guy, he has 4 children, him and his wife and one child came over to Cucuta to try and get work, and his left his other children back in Venezuela, and they had to sleep on the street because they couldn't find any work. And I had like some dollars on me. I gave him like $60 just to say good luck, not thinking it through. And he was in tears. He just couldn't understand it. And the guy said, no, that's good for him for 3 months. But I didn't understand that because $60 doesn't even buy me a pair of trainers, right?
Yeah,
you spend that on, you go out for dinner, you spend that on 3 cocktails.
Yeah.
So that was very obvious. And then I think obviously going up into this barrios where it is called the barrios, yeah.
Yeah, the slums.
Yeah, up into the slums. Yeah, I don't like that word for some reason, but I went to this NGO where basically they were feeding 200 women and children every day who just had no money, had nothing to eat, and that's the only way the children will get fed. So very clearly a humanitarian crisis, without doubt. But it was very mixed, like I say. Some places, like if you could go to East Caracas and not think there's a problem.
Yes, I think with the situation that is like, with the time passes, it's like the separation. The gap is bigger between the people that can make, that can live at least, and the people that have nothing to live. And the gap is bigger and bigger and bigger every time. It's that I have been seeing through this, I don't know, 10 years is what has been happening there in Venezuela. Yeah.
Peter decía que el contraste y la forma más evidente en la que comprobó que sí estamos atravesando una crisis humanitaria fue en Cúcuta, que a pesar de que en Caracas vio cosas que no están exactamente bien, que las venimos comentando, en Cúcuta el contraste fue mucho más radical, o sea, la diferencia se nota mucho más, es más impactante. Inclusive voy a poner parte del video que filmaron en Cúcuta, justamente donde él habla con esta persona a la que le hace la donación.
Last week sleeping on the street with his wife and baby. He wanted the world to know how desperate life is across the border.
Jesus, when we walked in here, you asked me to interview you and you started to get upset. Can you tell me why you really wanted to talk to me?
Ya tenemos una semana aquí en Cúcuta. Llegamos con la condición de a ver si progresamos un poquito, pues, porque a pesar que estamos en Venezuela, comíamos una sola vez al día, pues, y nosotros tomamos la decisión para venirnos para acá, y resulta que no es así. Tenemos ya una semana durmiendo en la calle, no comemos como es.
It's obviously very stressful for you. Tell me what life has been like for you here.
Porque como venimos llegando, no consigo trabajo.
Is it dangerous for you here?
Sí, demasiado. Necesitamos ayuda.
Are you scared to criticize Maduro?
Le suplico con todo el corazón del alma que tenga un poquito de uso y conciencia, por favor. Vea cómo estamos pasando. No tanto por nosotros, sino por las criaturas pequeñas.
What needs to change? What do you want? What do you want to happen now for Venezuela?
Saquen a Maduro para que Venezuela vuelva a ser Venezuela.
Yo creo que eso es un mensaje común, o sea, inclusive hace poco estaba escuchando el podcast nuevo de Luis Carlos Inaki y uno cuando escucha el análisis de la realidad económica de Venezuela, y esto fue antes de la pandemia, y las cifras de la encuesta en COVID son previas a la pandemia, o sea que esto está peor, pero bueno. Cuando uno escucha eso, cuando uno se da cuenta que la situación económica no tiene solución inmediata sin un cambio político, todo se hace más difícil. O sea, ¿cuál es la salida de alguien que dice, bueno, yo me voy a quedar en Venezuela para ver qué pasa y tratar de resolver? Imagínate esta persona que acaba de llegar a Cúcuta en medio de la pandemia o probablemente tuvo que volver a Venezuela, ¿cómo estaría resolviendo? Entonces, son cosas que propio Peter pudo constatar por sí mismo acá estando en el país, y con esto quiero conectar esa idea de si Venezuela o no puede arreglar, Bitcoin puede arreglar o no a Venezuela, porque fue muy polémico, incluso para mí sigue siendo polémico el título que utilizó Peter para la entrevista. Entonces, bueno, preguntar un poco sobre eso. Peter, after we are seeing these videos that you recorded and listening your thoughts after being here in Venezuela. We should discuss a little about this polemic around the way that you presented the things that you saw here, and also the way that you, I don't know, titled or headline, the headline that you put in the interview that you made me, that Bitcoin won't fix Venezuela. That is chasing me, because all the shitcoiners that hate me says that how is that I talk about Bitcoin, but I said that Bitcoin won't fix Venezuela. I don't know what is exactly this polemic, because we are seeing in your own work and we are living through this horror. So I don't know what is this kind of polemic, but what are your thoughts about the reaction of these publications, this Dash affair that you had with the CEO of Dash Pay, and also the comments that you have of Venezuelans that said that maybe you spend most of your time with maximalism, and talking about me, obviously, and we only spend like 3 or 4 hours together. So what are your thoughts about this thing around your own work?
Yeah. So there's two issues there to cover. Firstly, the title of the show, Bitcoin won't fix Venezuela. That did trigger a lot of people. And my point being is that the most important and pressing issue for me is a return to proper democracy in Venezuela. Allow for the people of Venezuela to choose who leads them, who their leader is, and not that I think democracy is a panacea to fix all problems, but and it's not like I'm even a huge fan of Guaido himself, but at the same time, I think the most important thing is the removal of Maduro, the real rebuild of the institutions to allow the people to free the people of Venezuela, allow them to flourish. Now, that isn't to say Bitcoin can't help people. Bitcoin, of course, can help people. It helps you, Javier.
Okay.
You know?
Sorry, Peter, give me one moment here to translate this before you continue, please. Okay, él dice que, primero hablando del título, es para no perder el hilo porque creo que es importante esto. Él lo tituló Bitcoin won't fix Venezuela, o sea, Bitcoin no arreglará Venezuela. Él dice que lo más importante es la situación política, ¿no? Lo más importante para él es sacar el régimen y establecer una democracia con libertades. Y después, pues bueno, quizás viene lo de Bitcoin. Go on, Peter, please.
Yeah, and that's not to say Bitcoin can't help. I absolutely believe it can help, because it is. I know it's helping. It's helping get money in and out of Venezuela. It's helping someone like yourself, Javier, avoid hyperinflation. But at the same time, I don't think it fixes the country. I think the return of democracy does. Now, of course, people will say on a long enough time frame, if enough people use Bitcoin and stop using the Bolivar, then great. But I just don't I think you can use a lot of common sense in a situation like this. I think some Bitcoiners, they have seen Venezuela as the great use case, but they haven't been there. And I used to think that. Having been there, now I've been there, I've seen Bitcoin isn't going to help people in the slums right now. These are people living on, like maybe $5-6 a month. I mean, if they have to buy 2 or 3 things, that's all their money's gone in transaction fees. They also don't need another volatile currency. And lastly, there isn't that culture. Javier, you were telling me there's no culture of saving in Venezuela. What the people need right now are jobs and the ability, jobs and a stable currency.
Yes, that is. I'm going to translate this. Él dice que bueno, que primero él dice que Bitcoin puede ayudar a Venezuela, pero él no cree que Bitcoin, fix Venezuela, arregle Venezuela. Ese es el meme que se usa, ¿no? Dice que Bitcoin él cree que no puede arreglar Venezuela. Eso no cree que no lo pueda ayudar. Hay gente que lo está usando como resguardo de valor, para protegerse contra la hiperinflación, para enviar remesas. hacer transacciones internacionales, salir de la censura del dinero. Y él dice que lo más importante ahorita es quizás que la gente tenga una fuente de ingreso, un trabajo. Dice que quizás tener una criptomoneda que es muy volátil como la volatilidad que tiene Bitcoin, pues quizás no ayude mucho a la gente. La gente no tiene mucha cultura en los barrios, dice que quizás la gente en los barrios no tiene mucha cultura de ahorro. Dice que lo que ve que puede ayudar más es que Venezuela necesita es que la gente tenga trabajo, que genere trabajo, o sea, que genere una fuente de ingreso. Quizás lo que puede hacer una moneda estable, ¿no? Eso fue lo que dijo. Okay, Peter.
So the last point was on the shitcoiners and the shitcoins. And I think my main observation there is that the problem shitcoins have is that they are, whilst they claim to be decentralized, they have these entities around them that are centralized, that have this incentive to make their shitcoin work and be used. Whereas Bitcoin, we're all decentralized. Like, you're trying to make Bitcoin successful, I am, but we're all just doing our own thing, like sometimes working together. But these shitcoins are coordinated together. So they have this interest, one of pushing the narrative, trying to find a use case, and then potentially exaggerating the use. I'm sure you can find a reason for someone to use Dash, but do the people need Dash? No, they don't. For the same reason, most people don't need Bitcoin, because they don't need another volatile medium of exchange.
Yeah.
So I just don't trust these people. I just think they're fucking liars.
Yes. I'm going to translate this. Él dice que primero I love it, porque dice que primero los shitcoiners o las shitcoiners, dice, o sea, la estructura, la arquitectura, cómo funciona es muy diferente a Bitcoin. Dice que siempre hay un incentivo de promover, y el tema de los shitcoin, de las shitcoin, es que centralizada siempre hay una organización detrás, ¿no? Promoviendo, quizás incentivando y promoviendo el uso, ¿no? Él dice que por ejemplo, Bitcoin, ahora en contraposición está Bitcoin, que no hay un punto de coordinación. Bueno, y si vamos a un tema, es totalmente el sistema distribuido, no solo como en la red, ¿no? Es un sistema distribuido, ¿no? Pero él dice, aquí estamos, Javier, está Aníbal, estoy yo, están los que están escuchando, los 10, 20 personas que están, y quizás todos están poniendo su granito, pero no estamos coordinando, incentivando, y tenemos una asociación atrás, Usenbit, que él dice que prácticamente los shitcoiners son todos son mentirosos, ¿no? Son mentirosos, y que promoviendo el uso y quizás exagerando las narrativas, lo que se llama el tipo de uso, como se dice, use case, exagerando las narrativas en base a eso. Eso es lo que dice. Okay, Peter, you can go on.
So really, I just don't really have an interest in these shitcoins, and I just don't trust the narrative they're pushing. My problem is I don't have the time to fully investigate it, and I don't really want to. But all the criticism people label back, I didn't spend enough time there. Look, common sense tells you a lot, and most people in Venezuela will benefit from Dash the about same amount as they will benefit from Bitcoin. They just don't. It's just another thing they don't really need. I think right now, the most important thing is jobs, freedom, security, and a stable currency.
Okay, great. Él dice que, bueno, que sencillamente él no cree. Él dice que la gente no necesita, o sea, quizás como Bitcoin no puede arreglar eso, pues Dash quizás no. O sea, lo que él cree que la gente necesita es trabajo, libertad, seguridad, quizás una moneda estable, ¿no? Es lo que puede necesitar. Es realmente que siempre la gente venía a atacarlo a él con la misma narrativa. Por favor, sentido común, ¿no? Que siempre es que no pasó mucho tiempo allá en Venezuela, que no investigó bien, y él dice, bueno, en realidad, pues no, estuvo 2 días, no tengo mucho tiempo y no es de mi interés, o sea, tampoco, ¿no? Pero básicamente eso. O sea, él está haciendo aquí un punto, y yo lo voy a agregar a algo personal, de que quizás la narrativa de la situación de Venezuela es usada como un marketing, es para promocionar otras monedas, no solo otras monedas, otras plataformas de intercambios y todo, ¿no? Inclusive la gente en Venezuela se promociona con la situación de Venezuela. Ahí está Javier, ¿no? Que Venezuela, que la cripto, hiperbitcoinización, that shit is not going to happen.
Es que una de las cosas que a mí me llaman mucho la atención es que pareciera que no nos damos cuenta que el éxito del paradigma de las criptomonedas, el éxito del dinero descentralizado, entre comillas, si es que esos son las shitcoins, no lo son, pero si eso es lo que son. Ese éxito depende de la crisis del bolívar, y la crisis del bolívar afecta al 95% de las personas que están en este país. Entonces, si tú te estás haciendo lucro, te estás volviendo famoso o lo que sea por cripto, entre comillas, tú te estás haciendo famoso por la crisis de tus conciudadanos. Eso es desleal, y hacer marketing con eso, por más que se molesten, por más que digan que han trabajado por la adopción, porque digan lo que digan, hacer marketing con eso es antiético. Y bueno, si no se dan cuenta de esos pequeños detalles, menos que menos estamos haciendo y apostando a la misma adopción, entre comillas, nuevamente. Quería hacer también ese punto allí. Now we are going to continue. This is the last question about Venezuela, because we have one in the comments that is about the meaning Maduro's regime as the most bigger user and miner of Bitcoin in the country, and using it as a tool to evade the economic measures and sanctions of the Trump administration. And what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this is accurate, or it is I don't know, a misspelled narrative, or what?
I mean, I don't know exactly how much Maduro is using Bitcoin, but that's one of the things of Bitcoin. Look, it's an unstoppable financial system which offers censorship resistance and seizure resistance. So that means it will be used by anybody, good, bad, evil people. That we can't do anything about. That's just the way it is. If it wasn't Bitcoin, Maduro would find something else. You know, he's been in power for however long he's been. He would just find another way.
Actually, it's not a bug. It's a feature of Bitcoin. Yeah,
it's a feature of Bitcoin. I mean, it is, and the reality of it. We have to accept that nefarious characters will use it, but at the same time, it is a better form of money, and it offers. It's a tool for improved freedom. So we just have to accept that that's a reality of it. I don't like it. I wish, I wish things were a different way, but I think the problem isn't is Maduro using Bitcoin. It's that Venezuela doesn't have an open, free and fair elections for the people to democratically choose their leader, and he needs to be overthrown in one way, hopefully by the people of Venezuela.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, thank you. Él dice que en realidad, bueno, que sí, que él no puede decirlo, pero que Bitcoin lo use Maduro o lo mine Maduro, pues en realidad pues no se puede evitar, nadie puede evitar que Bitcoin sea usado por agentes malignos, ¿no? O para hacer el mal. Eso no importa, en realidad lo que... O sea, no podemos evitar eso. Yo le dije que realmente eso no es una falla, eso es una propiedad de la moneda, ¿no? La apertura en ese caso. No podemos hacer nada contra eso, obvio que no le gusta, pues no, pero no podemos hacer nada. Y si Maduro no usara Bitcoin o no minara Bitcoin, no sé, esa narrativa es como un poco, no sé, que quizás encontraría otra cosa, ¿no? Encontraría otro dinero que usar. Y aquí yo voy a agregar algo. Recuérdense que la mayoría de las fechorías ocurren con dinero fiat. La mayoría de las fechorías ocurren con el dólar, con USD dólar. Y con el... Entonces, pues, básicamente eso.
Ok, ahora ya sí vamos a cerrar las preguntas de Venezuela. Vamos a pasar a hablar directamente sobre el trabajo de Peter y recientemente 2 episodios muy interesantes que hizo, uno con Peter Schiff y otro con el CEO de Coinbase. Entonces le vamos a hacer algunas preguntas sobre su trabajo. Antes de eso, voy a compartir un pequeño video del siguiente trabajo que hizo en film, en ese formato, Peter, que fue en campos de refugiados en Turquía. I will share a little extract of your video in Europe's refugee crisis from Defiance too, before entering in your work in the questions about your podcast. So let's see these couple minutes.
Situation like this, and it was a strangely calm chaos. The fields were full of people sleeping, building shelters, or in long queues for food.
We are from Syria because of the Assad war.
Yep.
I had to go to Idlib.
Okay.
If I didn't go to Idlib, he will kill us.
Yeah.
Okay, then because of the terrorists in Idlib, we forced to come here in Turkey.
From those I spoke to, it was evident that the Syrians were in the minority, perhaps less than 10%.
How are you?
Afghanistan. Where are you from?
Somali.
From Burundi.
Burundi.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from Congo.
You're from Congo?
Yeah.
Sierra Leone. There's literally thousands of people here. Where are you from?
Bonjour démocratique. Bonjour.
Ça va bien?
Ça va bien.
Ça va bien.
I'm refugee. I'm going to Germany.
Where are you from?
I'm from Afghanistan.
Okay. Where are you from?
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Yes,
All
yes.
Afghanistan?
Yes.
Afghanistan?
Yes.
Reports indicated that there were nearly 20,000 people here, and the situation was dire. What facilities is anyone providing?
No facility. No facility. No water. No food. No toilet.
And how long have you been here?
4 days.
4 days?
3 days. 3 days. Yeah.
Okay. This is your wife?
Yeah, it's my wife.
Is she sick?
Yeah, it's not feeling very sick.
She's sick. You're pregnant.
Aquí lo que estamos viendo son imágenes del campo de refugiados que está justamente en una de las fronteras entre Turquía y Grecia. Fueron imágenes bastante fuertes que grabó Peter directamente allí. Lo que queremos es mostrar esto para poder entrar a su trabajo como tal, que no se limita a What Bitcoin Did, sino que tiene este otro podcast, estos otros trabajos fílmicos en Defiance. Peter, why did you decide to make this after being here and then going to the border between Turkey and Greece instead of going to your house and have a good rest, my friend?
Well, I did go home, I think, for a week or so. I went home, maybe a couple of weeks. I can't remember. It seems so long ago. No, I just saw the news reports of what was happening at the border between Greece and Turkey. It just felt like something I wanted to see myself and go and document what was happening. I'm trying to learn about how to be a filmmaker, and it just felt like a story I wanted to go and tell. So yeah, I jumped on a plane and headed out there and made that other short film.
Great. Peter nos comenta aquí que, bueno, que él vio las noticias, lo que estaba sucediendo en Yemen, y dijo, bueno, pues voy a tomar un avión para allá y para hacerlo parte de Defiance, que es el podcast de él. Está aprendiendo y quiere convertirse en un productor cinematográfico, ¿no? Cinematógrafo. Entonces, que prácticamente fue eso, ¿no?
Okay, and after knowing this, why did you decide to start this podcast Defiance? And then we will be going with the same question about what Bitcoin did, but first about Defiance. What did you started with this other product?
Yeah, I wanted to start covering topics outside of Bitcoin that I had an interest in, that I thought also people who are into Bitcoin might be interested in. But sometimes there's shows I want to make which aren't about Bitcoin. So it could be anything from human rights to sex worker issues to inner city violence. All topics I just wanted to cover, and they didn't suit going on the Bitcoin show. So I just decided to launch a second podcast where I'd talk about other subjects.
Ok, él dice que bueno, que él quería hablar de otros tópicos fuera de Bitcoin, como los derechos humanos, sobre las trabajadoras sexuales y quizás como las protestas civiles y todos esos temas. Y dijo, bueno, voy a decidir, quizás no entran en What Bitcoin Did, en el podcast de él original. Y dijo, bueno, voy a empezar otro podcast donde él quiere comunicar esas cosas, le importan. Y creó Defiance Podcast.
Estaba muteado. Ese es el mal de los nuevos días. And when you first started what Bitcoin did you expect that it will have this reception that you have and that it will let you to travel around the world and see what Bitcoin did?
No, I had no expectation at all. I just did it for a bit of fun just one day decided to do it. And, here I am, coming up to 3 years later, and I've been so lucky to travel all around the world, meet great people like yourself. I've just been very, very lucky, but no, there was no plan. It was just a bit of fun.
Ok, él dice que no hubo plan, sino que dijo, bueno, voy a hacerlo, me está divirtiendo. Dice que ya han sido 3 años. Se considera que ha sido, pues, bueno, un poco afortunado porque ha viajado alrededor del mundo y conocido a gente fantástica como Javier, y que dice que, bueno, que originalmente no tenía plan, solo, pues, hacer lo que le divierte, básicamente, ¿no?
Well, but you have 3 years doing this, and now you have a great tale of haters, and also you have a really great audience. I am a listener of what Bitcoin did. I think that this and Stefan Libera podcast are the two that I must listen to. And you are reaching people that maybe not all the Bitcoiners are down to talk with, like Peter Schiff, like Ryan Armstrong recently, and you had also this man from Chainalysis. I think that you are doing something that many people is not really, they don't really want to do so. I don't know why, because we need to listen what the fuck they are thinking, because if they are our enemies, we need to think, we need to know what they're thinking. So why you are doing this kind of interviews? And because you said that it began as a funny thing, as a funny project, but it have evolved. I think that that it is bigger than expected, of course. But why to turn this in a way to keep touching things that people don't really want to talk and stuff like that, and having people like these 3 that I mentioned?
I mean, I'll talk to anyone at all, as long as it's about Bitcoin on the Bitcoin show. Coinbase is it's the first or second biggest for Bitcoin behind Binance. It might be the second, but it's a huge company. It's a huge on-ramp. They've done a lot for Bitcoin. A lot of things which people think are negative and other things which people think are positive. But at the same time, they're not going away. But at the same time, there are issues that people in Bitcoin have with what they're doing. So there's one choice: just sit and shout at Brian Armstrong and Coinbase on Twitter and call them names, or sit down and have a conversation. And I felt that when we sat down, we could have a conversation and we made progress on some important topics.
Yeah. Él dice que, bueno, prácticamente, por ejemplo, el caso de Coinbase, que es uno de los intercambios o una de las rampas de acceso al criptoespacio más grande, la primera, la segunda con Binance, simplemente dice que, bueno, que hay que hablar de ellos, ¿no? Es una empresa muy grande y pues dijo, voy a conversar sobre ello. Todo esto pasa normalmente en el podcast What Bitcoin Did, es donde lleva este tipo de gente que quizás la comunidad no tiene mucha agrado hacia ellos, de la comunidad de Bitcoin, entre comillas, ¿no? Twitter, los haters más que todo, Y bueno, que decidió tocar a Brian Armstrong, y realmente consiguieron lograr varias cosas ahí en el podcast interesantes, ¿no? Hablaron y también hay unas cosas interesantes que Peter le pidió a él. Si lo escuchan, es fascinante.
Yeah, can you, continue, Peter.
So I was just saying, what comes out of my interview with Brian Armstrong, if somebody doesn't know about Coinbase, they will now understand that there's some things they need to consider that maybe they weren't aware of. And if they were aware of Coinbase and these issues, they can see they're being debated and hear some of Brian's viewpoints. And also, me and Brian made progress on certain issues. If they go and start sponsoring open source developers, Bitcoin developers, off the back of that, I see that as something productive that came out of it. So I don't see how there was any harm done, because it wasn't like I opened him up a free platform to just talk about Coinbase without being challenged. Now, look, I know some people don't like it. Some people are triggered, but those people were triggered before the interview came out. So they already made a choice to dislike it and then went through the interview to pick out the things they didn't like, rather than objectively treat it like the interview it was.
Yes. Peter dice que, bueno, que él decidió pues abrir su plataforma a Coinbase, y en este caso para que la gente vea qué hay detrás de Coinbase o cómo funcionan las cosas en realidad. Él dice que habló con Brian y, por ejemplo, una de las cosas muy más relevantes que surge en esa conversación es que Peter le pregunta que si ellos están sponsoreando, están patrocinando a algún desarrollador de Bitcoin, o sea, de código libre, ¿no? De una manera libre. Brian en el podcast le dice que ellos tenían como algo interno, ¿no? Dentro de Coinbase, pero Peter le dijo que por qué no se comprometía a hacer una contribución, un sponsor de un desarrollador pues abierto en la comunidad fuera. Y bueno, que hicieron un avance, creo que posiblemente suceda, o sea, conversaron eso, y por otro lado no solamente promocionar ni nada que ver de Coinbase, sino es como mostrar a la gente qué es la empresa y qué es lo que sucede, cómo funciona. Dice que, bueno, desencadenó y activó pues algunas perspectivas de la gente, pero es una narrativa, ¿no? Ellos dicen que realmente esa gente siempre está, ¿no? Se refiere quizás a la gente que es altamente crítica por haber llevado a Brian al podcast, ¿no?
Ok, hace tiempo, el año pasado, Peter publicó un tweet en donde hacía como una especie de resumen sobre lo que había ido consiguiendo con el podcast, y daba como unos pequeños consejos para gente que quiera iniciar un podcast o que le interese crear contenido alrededor de Bitcoin. Entonces le voy a preguntar eso, ya igual para ir cerrando, estamos sobre la hora, muchachos. Si tienen alguna pregunta, no duden en dejarla en los comentarios, que se la añadiremos. Peter, you the last year you shared a tweet storm about what Bitcoin did and how it evolved as a project, and you also dropped some comments on how people can start something like this. And also during this conversation, you said that it was a start like a funny thing, like a thing that you feel that you can enjoy doing. So what are your these list of things that you can share with people that want to start the next what Bitcoin did, or the next Defiance? I don't know.
Yeah, well, look, I've been very fortunate. This was all luck. I decided just to do it for a bit of fun, and here it is, and it's changed my life. And I managed to have a great experience from it. And I would tell anyone, if you're thinking of doing it, just do it. We're still very early in the world of podcasting. There's so many other podcasts out there that people could make. I would say try and find a niche that hasn't been done. I mean, if you want to do Bitcoin, go for it. But there's a lot of Bitcoin podcasts now. So if you're going to do one, I would say find a niche. But there's no reason not to do it. If someone can come out and create another amazing podcast, fantastic. But the most important things are accepting it's going to take time to build up. There's no overnight success is hard. It's a long, hard grind. Like I said, I've been doing this for mean, what are we now? 2020. I mean, in November it will have been 3 years, and I've worked really hard during that time, like a lot of hours. So you got to put a lot of hard work in. You got to be consistent, and you got to keep like working on the craft of your product. Like I don't just switch on my podcast each week and ask questions. I work on it. I work on the design of the website. I work on the interview style. I work on trying to get good guests. You know, you just got to put a lot of work in, but it is something you can sit in your bedroom at home with a laptop and create. You can create a business just off your laptop by podcasting. So I think if you're thinking about doing it, you want to do it, go for it, but be prepared to put the work in and the time.
Ajá. Bueno, Peter nos dice que simplemente que los anima a hacerlo. Si ustedes quieren estar interesados en hacer un podcast quizás de Bitcoin, él dice, bueno, ahorita hay muchos podcasts de Bitcoin, pero quizás encuentren su nicho. Dice, él se considera que fue muy afortunado. Él lo deja claro, ya lo ha comentado varias veces. Él considera que fue muy afortunado y que se divierte. Pero dice, tienen que tener presente que esto es mucho trabajo, ¿no? Que él ha puesto mucho trabajo. Dice que en noviembre de 2020, ya prácticamente son 3 años, y él ha puesto mucho trabajo en esto. No solamente en lo que se ve. Él dice, ha intervenido en el diseño web, en conseguir invitados importantes o relevantes. Él se involucra en todo, en cómo es la estructura de las entrevistas, en la creación de contenido, todo. Él dice que bueno, que solamente, él dice, nos da un consejo básicamente, consistencia, poner mucho trabajo, que le parece formidable que cualquier persona desde una laptop en su casa, que es lo más importante, quizás con ciertas libertades de manejar el tiempo individualmente, con alguna soberanía, usted puede crear un negocio, ¿no? Un podcast, si lo quiere hacer, ¿no? Básicamente.
Yeah, and to finish this, we really like to ask our guests for the future vision, and let's think in 20 years since now, do you think that Bitcoin is still there? And if yes, what led us to get there? And if not, what make us fail?
Good question. Well, if Bitcoin is still here in 20 years, it's either still just a little tiny nerd project that people are trying to keep alive, that not very many people care about, or it is a significant global asset used by hopefully billions of people. I think it's one or the other. It either succeeds massively or it just sinks back down as this project. My hope is it's very successful. I hope it gets easier to use. I hope it improves the lives of people around the world and hopefully improves some of the kind of quite terrible governance we have around the political systems we have in the world. But yeah, I hope it's still here, and I hope it's changing the world for the better. And if it is, like I say, I expect it to be. I can't see it being here in 20 years and it's still $9,000 to $10,000.
Ok, perfecto. Él dice que él lo ve como dos perspectivas, que quizás permanece como algo más pequeño, como estamos ahorita, o sino que pues tiene éxito masivamente y se convierte en el activo global usado por miles de millones de personas, ¿no? Él dice independientemente que lo más importante es que sea usado para darle libertades a las personas, ¿no? Y proveer esa herramienta que las personas pueden usar, y que él, por el lado de él lo ve en uno, como que permanece como un proyecto pequeño, quizás como es ahorita, o tiene éxito a gran escala y él se va por el que en 20 años él dice que sí, muy probable. Él se va por la parte positiva, más positiva, ¿no? De que Bitcoin va a tener mucho éxito.
Well, thanks a lot for being here with us, Peter. It's been a really great pleasure to interview you because you interviewed me. So now we are done. We are hand on hand in the interview thing, but we can still be doing these things. And it's really a great pleasure to chat with you because I think that people don't really like to tell the things that they thought, and you always do that. And it is really great to have people that still doing this in this cancel time, in the middle of the cancel culture. So Thanks a lot for your time. Also, Aníbal, thanks a lot for your time. Muchas
Thank
gracias
you.
a todas las personas que han estado conectadas con nosotros. Estuvimos entre 20 y 25 personas conectados hoy acá en este encuentro con Peter. Así que, bueno, muchas gracias a todos por su tiempo. Gracias de nuevo, Aníbal, por el co-hosting. Si tienes algún comentario de cierre por allí.
No, gracias. Thanks, Peter, for being here. Thank you for went to Venezuela. Thank you for that.
No, and thank you for having me. And Javier, thank you for your hospitality when I was there. As I said, I had a great time. Really enjoyed myself. Thank you for the beer as well.
Great, friend. Bueno, nos veremos entonces. Mañana vamos a continuar este ciclo. Estaremos conversando sobre mitos y realidades de la minería de Bitcoin en Venezuela. Es un tema súper controversial y movido porque, bueno, siempre hay este interés en saber si la electricidad tan barata sigue permitiendo la minería como estuvo entre 2016 y 2017, así que bueno, están todos cordialmente invitados a conectarse mañana a partir de la 1 con Criptominerca. Vamos a estar hablando sobre los mitos y realidades de la minería entonces. Así que bueno, nada, gracias a todos y chao, chao.